I want to introduce our next performer. He is professor of tuba and euphonium at the University of Redlands in California, and he's also performed with Chicago Symphony, Los Angeles, and San Diego. But many of you probably know him from his YouTube videos, which are pretty amazing, and that's what he's going to be presenting to us here today, Scott Sutherland.
Thanks so much, and good morning to everyone. My name is Scott Sutherland, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here. This is actually my first time at the Tuba-Euphonium workshop. It's kind of hard to get a San Diego guy to the East Coast in February, but this was a great excuse, and I brought my son. Everyone say hi to Jake, please. If you see him later today, please just go up to him, just say, "Okay, boomer," and walk away. That would bring me a lot of satisfaction, actually. So we're going to be talking a little bit about something that I kind of do on the side, which is my YouTube channel. How many people have seen any of my YouTube videos? Great. How many have subscribed to my channel? Okay, there's a few of you who clearly need to take this time right now to subscribe. We'll wait. Okay, excellent. So, a big question is why YouTube? Why did I choose this particular avenue and this particular project? I helped found and manage a brass quintet for 11 years called the Presidio Brass. And we toured the country, went to over 45 states in the United States. We went to Canada, we went to China. It was great. Produced 4 self-produced albums. I did the 95% of the arranging and a lot of the managerial side of that business. But there came a clear time that I needed to move on. And so I was searching for a project for myself to keep some of those skills, honing some of those skills that I learned in the brass quintet, as well as just having a wonderful creative outlet. Okay, so one thing about being in a brass quintet, though, is that you have 5 individuals, and you only get 20% of the vote on that one. I really enjoyed the idea of having 100% creative control over a project, something that was really just mine. The other thing about doing a multi-track YouTube videos, and if you've seen anything, any of the presentations by Christopher Bill or the overdub class that Jim Nova puts on, you know that doing any kind of layering really helps with ensemble skills, pitch and time, listening, blending. All of those things are really honed by doing multi-tracks on your own. And you can do this just simply by even trying it out by yourself with a duet. Record one side of a duet and then play it back and then play along with yourself. And it's really eye-opening just how important time and intonation especially is. And then I had a number of hats with a project like this, including being the performer. I perform the piano parts, I perform even those finger cymbals that you saw in there, yeah, that was me. Next level percussion. Yeah, thank you. I know. And frankly, I deserve it. I mean, the local high school is, what percussion do you need now? Finger cymbals? Oh, I got those. Great. So, performer, arranger, I continue to arrange. And if you are available at 5 p.m., I encourage you to come by. We're going to be reading down a whole bunch of my YouTube charts. And it's something that's fun. I absolutely love arranging, and I do it for all sorts of ensembles. But Tuba-Euphonium Ensemble is a particular challenge that is near and dear to my heart. Producer, engineer, videographer, especially the audio-video editing. It's something that I had never done previously to this. I learned everything just so that I could put videos up on YouTube. It was a long process. But the biggest thing was the exposure without the humble brag. So what I needed to do was prepare myself to go back into the freelance world because I had a full-time income with a brass quintet. And a lot of people in the Southern California region kind of, they stopped calling after I turned them down over and over and over again. So I needed some sort of way to get out there, let people know that I still have skills on these instruments, and I'm available. I'm available to work. So, but where this is different is I wasn't taking selfies while playing with an orchestra saying, oh, I'm humble blessed to be here with such and such orchestra, That's something I try not to. I try not to emulate that particular mode. So that is one thing that the YouTube video helped with, was getting out there without. And then you have people like Tom Holtz walk through the door, and then you get nervous. But fortunately, the playing part's over. Woohoo! Hi, Tom. So my start, I wasn't sure how to get started. So I started out with the Acapella app. Is everyone familiar with the Acapella app? So this is an app that uses audio and video simply from your phone. It records the audio from the microphone on your phone. It records from your video, the camera from your phone, and it embeds this into different frames. And so you can kind of do what I did, sort of. You're limited usually by about 1 minute, and and you're limited by your phone's capabilities, the video capabilities and the audio capabilities of your particular phone. That's how I started. The other thing I did was I took a whole lot of friends out to many a lunch, many a dinner, many a beer, so that I could pick their brains on just how to do all of this. Lynda.com was a wonderful resource as well. This is a website with video tutorials on, from the ground up, how to learn. For me, it was Final Cut Pro, learning Logic Pro. If you want to do Pro Tools, if you want to do Adobe Premiere, they have from the ground up, tutorials, how to get started, how to do some of the more basic editing, tools, and then it can get pretty deep into those particular programs. And then YouTube tutorials. So if I ran into one particular issue, it's amazing what is on YouTube. How to tie a bow tie, all the way to how to do simple editing, or what reverb is best for classical music through Logic. Which plugins would you recommend for Final Cut Pro to do these particular editing styles? All of those are available on YouTube. So what I'm going to start with, here we go. Yeah, all right, good. I'm going to show you the first acapella app video that I did, and I very quickly realized that I needed to get away from that. This is the first minute of an arrangement. Actually ended up becoming my first YouTube video. It's Pirates of the Caribbean. I did this in a church. It was a hot summer day. I was about to go down to the San Diego Zoo to play funk sousaphone. And on the way down, this is in La Jolla, I decided to try to record a 1 minute intro to Pirates of the Caribbean. And so here we are. Now, the first thing you'll notice is that I have humongous headphones, and I'm sweating because the entire time I'm thinking, just don't miss a note. Just don't miss a note. If I can play it in tune, great, but just don't miss a note. Otherwise, I'm ruining this whole take. You'll notice there's a tinny quality to the audio because it's through the phone, which is only going to be able to pick up a particular frequency range. And that was problematic. I don't look good there. I'm not 20. I'm not Jacob Collier, good-looking man, and I get that. I'm 42, and I'm on the backside of things. So I get it. I need a little help in that arena. I understand. And then what I also realized is that the arrangement was a little muddy because it's just a little too low. And I realized I needed to bring it up, but in order to do that, I was maxed out on my F-tuba. So I needed to pick up Euphonium after 20 years. I played it in high school for, a few months. And so I borrowed my dad's. My dad had a Euphonium in some, storage space somewhere. And so I picked that up and realized that in order to really just kind of have that full tonal palette, that I needed to pick up Euphonium. So I did, and I rearranged this particular piece. The other thing I realized is that I needed to figure out Logic Pro. I needed to figure out Final Cut so that I could do it the way that the pros do it. I wanted something of a higher quality. There are a number of YouTube channels out there that kind of do this sort of thing, quartets or even just duets, but I wanted something higher quality. I kind of fashioned myself as attempting to be the Jim Nova of the tuba, on YouTube. That was kind of my conception, and I wanted many more parts. I wanted to include piano. I wanted something that better represented the pieces that I was recording. So the arrangement needed to be much more elaborate. And in order to do that, what I realized is that I needed to record all of the audio ahead of time. This is how if you see a video that doesn't have headphones in, what they did was they recorded all the audio ahead of time, and then I'm going to use a reference that most of you don't understand, Milli Vanilli'd the video. So all of my videos, I record all of the audio ahead of time in my garage with as much soundproofing around me as possible, because there's a lawnmower going on, outside or something, and then I video one take straight through with my video, with my daughter doing all of the video, and then cut all of that together and then sync the pre-recorded audio with the video. And again, anybody, and even some of the people who try to fake it and have earphones in there, a lot of times what it is that they have they pre-recorded all of that audio and then they're faking playing on the video. So there's your trade secret. So the thing is, I start off with, I know, mind blown. So, and there's a number of people who have headphones on that I know for a fact, because I've talked to them, also pre-record their audio. They're just trying to make it look like they're doing it live. It happens. So I start off with the arrangement. I'm going to try to go through this as quickly as I possibly can, because I want to get to your questions. Generally, these sorts of presentations, whenever I've given them, it's way more interesting to hear your questions and to have a discussion. So come with questions, all right? We're going to try to get through the rest of this as quickly as possible, and then if we have 15, 20 minutes, try to get to your questions. The first thing I do is I start off with an arrangement. So here's an example of one of my arrangements. This is Scherzo for X-Wings from The Force Awakens, Star Wars, the greatest movie franchise of all time. You'll notice, my general arrangements, generally, I should say the orchestrations are 2 euphoniums, 2 bass tubas, 2 contrabass tubas, and then 1 or 2 cimbassi. You'll notice that the cimbassos, I'm going to use those interchangeably because I really don't know what word actually is correct. Cimbassi, cimbasso, almost always double the tubas. I have found that cimbassos by themselves just lack some oomph, and so I will always double at the unison with the contrabass tubas, those cimbassos. The bass tubas generally function as the French horns of the ensemble. So you'll find that if you listen to the orchestra arrangement, I usually kind of have those, especially a rotary valve F tuba like this one from Eastman, try to have that as my French horn, and then the trumpets and woodwind parts are usually covered by the euphoniums as well as the pianos. And you'll notice in this particular arrangement, I had 4-hand piano. I have 4 different or 2 different piano parts. I'm trying to get away from that as much as possible so that I can do some of these arrangements live. A lot of people don't have 2 piano players at their disposal, but yeah, you can see that a lot of times I'm trying not to layer things too much on top of each other at any given time. There's a lot of back and forth. Otherwise, it gets muddy. And we always have a problem with clarity in our ensembles. This is one way around that. The piano helps with the higher frequencies, too. God, John Williams is a freaking genius. I just want to throw that out there. So you may have noticed there was actually a percussion part that I wrote out for that as well, and a lot of times during the recording process, I will change the arrangement quite a lot actually. I'll add some doubling if needed. If I needed some oomph in like the chimbassos, or I'll add a pedal note or 10. If I just kind of want to geek out just a little bit. But sometimes the percussion can add some of that shimmer that you want in your arrangement, some of those higher frequencies when everything just kind of sounds like a farting contest in the Tuba-Euphonium ensemble. And but in that particular arrangement, it didn't sound like it needed it, so I avoided recording it. So if you guys want to geek out, this is the current equipment that I use. I have a large diaphragm condenser microphone. That's what LDC stands for. It's a type of microphone. You have three major types. You have the dynamic microphone. This is a dynamic microphone, okay? One of the classics. And then you have condensers, and then you have ribbon microphones. Ribbon microphones sound great with brass, but I am terrible with my equipment. I throw them around, and I put too much power to them. And, ribbon microphones are notoriously delicate. So the other thing is that I have what's called different pickup patterns. So I use a cardioid pickup pattern. So basically, everything that is right in front of the microphone is what is recorded, because I don't want all of the sound that's going to the back of the microphone, because I try to isolate as much as possible. All the reverb that you hear is all digital. My garage sounds awful and terrible, terrible, terrible. You don't want to hear the raw audio. So I have a cardioid microphone, just picks up, and it's very close. It's within 6 inches of the bell. I try to do it at about bell height so that I avoid any kind of air noise, as much clarity as I possibly can, and then I add reverb on top of that. I have a Focusrite Scarlett 2i2 interface. Basically, I can plug in 2 microphones. It's a red box about this big. You can get them on Amazon. It communicates with my MacBook Pro. So I have a microphone with an XLR cable, connects into my interface, and then that is then USB into my computer. And that then communicates with Logic Pro. That is my digital audio workstation, the Logic Pro, native to Apple. And then I use Final Cut Pro for all of my, which again is an Apple product. They kind of communicate well, and I like that. Almost the first 2 years, I just used an iPhone for all of the video. It worked until I was basically given a DSLR, a 12-year-old DSLR, a Canon 7D, and that's looks like a pro camera, and that shoots at 1080p video, which is fine for my purposes. But it gives me enough clarity and enough low light capability that it helps me in my shooting. And then I have a green screen lighting kit, $100 off of Amazon. Super cheap, super easy. The problem with that, and if you've ever worked with it or you've seen other people try to do green screen with a highly reflective instrument, especially tuba, is that you end up with green being reflected off of the bell, and then you have huge holes in your bell. And I just go through so many different solutions, as much as I possibly can, and I have yet to figure out how to get around that, except to strip all of the lacquer and all the silver off everything and have, paint it blue. And I'm this close to doing that for all my instruments, because because everyone comments on that. Shoddy green screen. You do it, you stupid little punk kid. I'm okay. I'm all right. So, okay. There's a quote that I want to share at the very end, but right now we have about 15 minutes. Any of you guys have any questions for me? Yes.
When you have so many different tracks and individual parts are only playing for a few measures, how do you choose?
This is for our internet folks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How do you choose which tracks to record first and so on?
Okay. Because your primary concerns are pitch and time. All right. I lay down the foundations first. Okay. They're also the instruments that I am the most consistent on. So I'm talking about the contrabass tubas. So oftentimes the first instrument that I will pick is the top contrabass tuba part. It is often in octaves with the lower part, and I can find that I will be the most consistent pitch-wise and time-wise with that part. Then I will record the lowest of the contrabass tuba parts, and then I will layer it on top of that. I will have a click going. I do all of my arrangements in Finale, and you can export them as MIDI tracks, and then you import that MIDI track into your DAW, or DAW. And that creates your click track. I use that click track for a certain amount of time, but at a certain point in the recording process, it's clear that all of the beats are represented, and then I'll get rid of that click just to make sure that I'm in the ensemble with my own parts, not necessarily with a click, because sometimes things have it, especially if you're trying to do something that ebbs and flows just a little bit, you're going to be off your click. If you want to try to actually put some kind of human emotion into this. So I will often turn off the click at a certain point. But yeah, it always starts with the lowest parts, and then I will add the upper parts at the end. Next question. Yeah.
What kind of software would you recommend for someone that doesn't have an Apple Mac?
If you want to start out, Audacity is fantastic. Audacity, it's free. It works really well. I still use it. In fact, here's a little hack for you guys auditioning, for orchestras and such. A lot of times you'll find like your favorite recording, and it will be a little slow, or it'll be a little. Oftentimes it's just a little too slow. That a tempo I wouldn't necessarily take in an audition, and I'll import it into Audacity and speed it up a little bit. Audacity does that better than Logic does. And so I still use Audacity. It's a fantastic program. As far as video, I don't know of a free video for PCs. Does anybody else? Anybody have any recommendations? No? Like an iMovie equivalent? No? Yeah. That's what? Yeah. I mean, you can get something that's such and such elements, or and you can often find ones that are under $50, and that's probably the way I would start it. I'm sorry? Actually, I have heard of that. Yeah, DaVinci Resolve. So there you go. I expect a video in a week. Go. Okay. Send me a link. Yes, sir.
I'm interested in knowing how you get the multiple frames in the video, and whether you can do that using iMovie.
You can, and that would be almost impossible for me to show you without actually being on a computer. But there are some fantastic YouTube tutorials to show you. You can do it. It's not as easy as it is in Final Cut. In Final Cut, the beauty of Final Cut is that you have plugins that make it stupid easy. I mean, it's done. What I used to do is manually do all of the frames and paint in all of the lines, and then export that as its own video. And I would have one configuration. Then I would do that with another configuration. And then I would do it as a multicam edit where I would take that one composite shot and then switch to another composite shot, and I would have 10 to work with. That was, I mean, days and so much being yelled at. by my wife, like so much. She hated me behind that sight of me behind my computer. Since then, I have discovered some plugins, but they're not available for iMovie. So it's labor intensive, but you can do it. And I would just recommend to find a YouTube tutorial. It's out there, definitely. And if you can't find it, let me know. Just send me an email, and I'll hunt it down for you. Other questions? Yes?
Do you ever re-record a track?
Oh, all the time.
Not because of a problem, but to improve the human element. Like you were saying, you add the higher pieces. Do you ever go back and, boy, I could do the low piece now and make it fit better?
Yeah. Every once in a while, I will realize that I drifted pitch-wise. Or something, something's off, and I have to, I have to re-record, or I'll tweak the arrangement. Go, I can do this better, Or this is the most frustrating thing is that I get to a certain point and then realize that yes, that wonderful floating melody just doesn't work because the lower parts are pushing the tempo too much, or and then you come back and then you re-record. Yeah, it happens far more often than I'd like to admit. Yeah, these things take a long time. I hope you appreciate them. Because these $6 I made last month, they are a labor of love, that's for sure. I love you, Christine. Thank you for your support. Yes?
Good morning, Scott. I just, away from the technical part for just a second, I'd like you to just take a second and tell us about your schedule, how much time you have for your family, as well as teaching, gigging, and I don't know if you teach this as well, but I see there would be a demand for it, but with our busy lives, how do you decide where your energy is going to go?
Well, that's very interesting because I have been doing a deep dive in priorities and scheduling over, especially this last year, like where, and I even got, I got this planner where I write out my priorities and then I do the next day's schedule and figure out what is the most important thing, where to, and include, okay, I need to actually just cut all of the music stuff out for this hour and just hang. This week has been, at the top of my planner, has been about balance. And I've been hanging out with this guy, and we've been going to the Smithsonian museums and not doing tuba over the last 3 days. Sorry, guys. So we got to see the SR-71 and the Shuttle Discovery yesterday instead of hanging out at the tuba conference. But he plays trombone, so he doesn't care about any of this anyway. So it is tough, and every once in a while, I have to carve out, and I let the family know. In fact, we have a little sign that says "Daddy's recording" on the garage, and everyone knows to stay out of the garage, all right, for the next few hours. But one thing that I've tried to hold myself to is that I'm not going to be solely focused on any of these projects for more than an hour at any given time. I'm going to give myself breaks. I'm going to step away from the practice room. I'm going to step away from the computer, and I'm going to check in with my family and see how they're all doing, even if it's for 15 minutes, and then come back. These are all the sorts of things that, but it's tough because sometimes, recently I've been playing up in LA more often, and so I'm traveling back and forth. I'm trying to take the train as much as possible to try to so that when I am home, I'm not bound up because I'm doing all this driving. I'm much more relaxed. It's gosh, quality of life is definitely something I've been looking into quite a lot. Other questions? Yes, sir.
Is
you were kicking yourself for not having dropped the money and got it sooner. Oh, gosh. No, because everything has been so expensive, I probably would have been divorced if I had gotten any of it any sooner than I had, I had acquired it. I have experimented a lot with microphones. Probably, so the AKG C214 is a cardioid-only version of the very famous 414 series of these microphones, which you see everywhere. You just Google that image. I wish I had settled on that. I had a dynamic microphone, the SM7B, before this, the one that famously recorded Thriller and such. But it's a dynamic microphone. It didn't quite pick up everything I wanted. So a used version of that and a used version of this microphone was about the same. I wish I had picked this up sooner, but gosh, all this is expensive. Yeah. And marriage is great. Marriage is great. I highly recommend it to all my friends and neighbors. Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
About the reverse question. Is there any piece of equipment that you kicked yourself for buying?
Yeah. Okay. All right. This. So, when I was you guys all know TubeNet. And this is. Oh yeah. This is Washington. We all know Chisholm. Okay. So. I got a recommendation for a microphone early on from TubeNet. It was what was it? It was an Audio-Technica condenser microphone, and it was such and such 825 or something. And I looked on the internet and I tried to find it, and I couldn't find it, so I found the next number. It was the 822, which was a completely different microphone. But because I had no idea, this was years ago, because I knew nothing about microphones, I picked it up anyways. This was a small diaphragm condenser field microphone, a stereo microphone. This was completely different than what people were recommending for tuba. And it sounded terrible, and it's what I recorded my Pirates video on. And everyone's like, that's... sound quality is a little funny. The tone quality, why did you pick that tone? Why don't you work on your tone? Well, yeah, the microphone was terrible for this. Like, awful. I wish I had never seen that microphone and I had gotten something. And fortunately, I've upgraded since. But yeah, I think it was the 822, or I got the 825 and 820. I don't know. Terrible. So, thank you for letting me relive that horror. Any other questions? You guys are busy subscribing. I get it. Once you're finished, give me that question. Any other questions, or are we good? Okay, because I have a quote to share with you guys. Feel free to email me, by the way, scottsutherlandmusic@gmail.com. If I take a year, just send me another email and say, hey, remember me? I sent you that email. And I will eventually. It's me trying to come up with my priorities and sitting down and trying to answer all my emails. That's one thing that I reserve a finite amount of time for, and then I step away, because that is a fire that never goes out. This is a quote that I absolutely love. This is applicable to any line of work. Ira Glass is the producer and host of This American Life, and this is just something I like to share to people. All of us who do creative work get into it because we have good taste, but there is this gap. For the first couple of years, you make stuff, it's just not that good. It's trying to be good. It has potential, but it's not. But your taste, the thing that got you into the game, is still killer. And your taste is why your work disappoints you. We all go through this. And if you are just starting out or you are still in this phase, you gotta know it's normal. And the most important thing you can do is do a lot of work. And I don't know if you go through my channel, man, I have learned so much. And a lot of times I ship. It doesn't matter if, you know, this is something that I've had to work on is it's you know, 80% there. It's fine. People are going to like it. Just get it out there. Otherwise, I could just go down a rabbit hole of editing and tweaking and just making everything exactly perfect, which is really unattainable, you know, if your standards are that high. But with each project, you're going to get better. The next video is always better than the previous video. And I always try to do new things. I mean, I did a video a month ago where I was dressed up in an Elsa dress. I'm always trying new things. By the way, that Elsa dress and the wig are for sale. If you want, $20 in Carlsbad. I swore to my wife that I would try to turn that one around. So what's the secret to creating something great? And it's just to do a lot of creating. And that's what I want to encourage you guys all to do, is do a lot of creating. Whatever it is that you want to do. I chose YouTube. Whatever you want to choose to do, just do a lot of it, and it's going to get good. Because we all have great taste in here. That's what got us here. But keep doing that creating. All right? Thank you very much.